eyes on Avalon as she lay on the tomb. Lauren was extraordinarily talented. Wow, creepy, beautiful, wonderful. Those words came from a distance. They were filming on Christie Island, and the heirs to the island, none of them with the surname Christie, had rented the island, the mansion, and the cemetery to Boris for his movie. They had spoken almost in unison, though she thought it was Cora Holstein, probably standing with her husband Gary, who had said, "creepy." Cora's distant cousins, Julian Bennett and Kenneth Richard, had echoed one another's beautiful and wonderful. While Cora Holstein, Julian Bennett, and Kenneth Richard were heirs to the estate, they barely knew each other. Their parents had been cousins, and, as happened, busy lives had kept that generation from being close. Now, however, they were equal heirs to the estate of Nolan Christie, the grand old patriarch who had passed away 2 months ago at the age of 89. Avalon smiled, happy the group was enjoying the making of the movie and her appearance on the tomb. Avalon knew her skin was pale to start with, but with Lauren's artistic touch, she was beyond white, the perfect bride-to-be of the vampire king Lucien LaCroix. She also had long, naturally waving dark hair, and Lauren had lightly adjusted the waves to curls that fell around her face and down to the dusty tomb. Marks at her neck, discernible beneath the fall of her dark hair, were perfectly created puncture wounds, and a slender trail of blood extended just lightly beneath the marks. In this movie, the vampires wasted very little blood. "Yes, beautiful," Boris Kozlov repeated. He was silent a minute and added softly, "Perfect." Avalon was certain Lauren was smiling. She kept her eyes closed, but she knew Lauren stood in the old graveyard next to the director of The Two Faces of the Vampire. And she was glad, low budget as this might be, that at least she was working on a film with a director who appreciated the work of his crew. Now, especially Lauren's work. Lauren wasn't even supposed to be on set today. Cindy West, lead on the makeup crew, had been scheduled that morning, but she hadn't shown up for her call time, and no one had been able to reach her. Lauren, always professional as well as helpful to her friends, had rushed in when Boris had called her, despite it being her day off. Lauren was accustomed to working bigger-budget projects. She'd done many movies with big-name actors and established directors, even heading up the makeup department for several. She was moving swiftly up the ranks in the field and possibly had more experience than Cindy, who had been hired first. Working on a cheesy B-movie vampire flick was not something Lauren would have agreed to if it hadn't been for her friendship with Avalon, and for Kevin Dunleavy, too. Many in the cast and crew were friends before this filming had begun. Boris had been a visiting lecturer when they'd all been in college. Alumni often helped alumni, and other connections were made through the school. Kevin Dunleavy was the lead actor. He considered this to be his big chance. With the way the world of film was moving, it just might prove to be a cult hit. There were now so many venues for film, even if a movie didn't hit the major theaters. Avalon had been offered a pretty juicy role, too. While the king of the vampires had many wives, she was his most beloved. "The camera is loving this, Boris," the director of photography, Brad Fallon, called out. Brad wasn't a friend from college, but had become tight with them all when they'd been hired for an internet show. A gangly blonde man with a perpetual smile, he acted when needed for various projects, but his true love was working with the camera. Catching the light, composing the shot, everything working in unison was his dream. Terry Jensen, production designer, was also a friend from school and had done a fantastic job with the little area of the cemetery in which they were working, without doing harm to historic markers and funerary art. Leo Gonzalez, actor, tall and stalwart, portraying the detective, had taught a class in mime, which was not so important for this film, but a great learning experience that might well be useful at a different time. Filming was proving to be a fun ensemble experience. It was an interesting script. Kevin was playing Lucien, king of the vampires, and he'd learned over hundreds of years to produce a blood strain that endured light, even the sun, and thus they could only be destroyed by one of two methods: a stake through the heart or complete decapitation.